Hello everyone and welcome to day 3 of your daily Chafetz Chaim videos. Today we continue with the Chafetz Chaim's introduction to the laws of Lashon Hara. Yesterday he talked about the gravity of the sin of Lashon Hara, and today he continues with saying that it is obvious to him that the reason the Torah is so particular about this sin of Lashon Hara is because through Lashon Hara a person arouses a great prosecutor against the Jewish people. And through this, many people die around the world. And he quotes the Zohar. The Zohar says that there is a certain evil spirit, an impure spirit, that is appointed on those words of Lashon Hara that are said in this world. And when a person begins to speak Lashon Hara, then this spirit is aroused and is going to take those words of Lashon Hara, and he takes those words on high, and he causes through them plagues, death, and war throughout the world. Woe is to those who arouse this evil spirit, and they are not careful with the words that they say, and they don't worry about it. They just don't care, because they don't realize that everything that happens on high is influenced based on what happens down here in this world, both for good and for bad. And the Chafetz Chaim continues and says that with this we can understand the Gemara that says that when a person sins with Lashon Hara, then their sins pile up to the heavens. They go up to the heavens. What this means, says the Chafetz Chaim, is that even though the words that they are saying are being said down here in this world, but their influence goes up to the heavens, and it unfortunately can bring terrible disasters back down in this world. And so he quotes the Tana Debei Eliyahu, which says that Lashon Hara that a person says, those words go all the way up and stand before the throne of glory of Hashem. And so the Chafetz Chaim says we see and we can understand how terrible the sin of Lashon Hara is, as it is able to create terrible destruction throughout the world. And he continues to say that there is another reason why this is such a terrible sin, and he says it's because through Lashon Hara a person can ruin the words of holiness that he says afterwards, and he doesn't allow the words of prayer and Torah that he says to ascend up to Hashem. And he again quotes the Zohar, and the Zohar says that this same spirit that we were talking about earlier takes the words of Lashon Hara that a person says, or other words that should not be said, and he holds on to them. And then the next time when that person says words of holiness, of prayer, of Torah, etc., then this spirit takes the words that were inappropriate and uses them to defile and contaminate and corrupt the words of holiness, and the power is lost from them. And the person who said those words of holiness will not merit to have them. So what the Chafetz Chaim says, now we can understand, we see clearly from the Zohar, that all the words of Torah and prayer that we say, they're all hanging around in the air. They're unable to ascend up to the heavens because of the sin of Lashon Hara and other inappropriate things that we say. And how then will we ever be able to merit to bring the coming of Mashiach? And the Chafetz Chaim ends with the following thought. He says, if we think about it deeply, we will find that not only is it a terrible sin, but it is also unique in that a person who becomes completely cold and indifferent to this and is not sensitive to it at all and doesn't try to stop himself will end up having such far-reaching ramifications that it will darken all the worlds, he says. He says, if you think about it, a person who doesn't worry about Lashon Hara will end up violating the laws of Lashon Hara thousands of times throughout their life. And if you have many people who are that way, then the number of sins is going to be so great that it will be insurmountable. He says it's like a thread. You have a few simple threads, they're very easy to break. But if you combine thousands and thousands of thread, it becomes a rope that is unbreakable. And so too, if we are not careful and we simply allow ourselves to speak Lashon Hara freely and we don't pay attention to what we say, then the gravity of the sin, even if it was minor, would still turn to be great and extremely grave. Certainly, how much more so this is true of Lashon Hara, which is in and of itself a terribly grave sin. How much more so will it be combined with the thousands and thousands of others, and how will we be able to merit the coming of Mashiach, because the damage that is done will be so great that it will be impossible for our prayers to be answered.